Good morning and welcome to our reading and reflection for Sunday the 9th of August. Today we are looking at the fourth and final chapter of the book of Jonah. It's one of my favourite parts of the whole Bible. But before that, a quick reminder of three things. First of all, our opening hours. The church is open on a Wednesday morning from 10 till 12 and also on a Sunday morning from 9 till 11, just to confuse you. 10 till 12 Wednesdays, 9 till 11 Sundays, and on the Sunday morning there is a short service on the half hour. That's 9:30 and again at 10:30. The second thing to say is I'm available pretty much 24/7, not quite, but try me out. If there's anything I can do for you, if you'd like a chat, some prayer, even some practical help with anything, do get in touch. We're also able to open the church for you individually if you'd like to use this space and this place to think and to pray. So we've got two opening hours in the week, Wednesdays and Sundays, but I'm here for you whenever you need me. Finally, something you might be able to do for us, but there's no pressure, no obligation. If you're willing and able, that's great. And that is this: we have had a big reduction in our income. Weddings in particular, room hire, regular Sunday collections, but our outgoings remain more or less the same, which is really me and this building. We run a pretty lean ship. We're fairly tight with our expenditure, but income has taken a hit, and that's just how things are. If you would like to make a donation to the work of the church, I'm going to give you the details in a moment. There's also a contactless card reader in the church that will accept payments. But here are our details. I don't know if you can see this. Put that there. And that is everything you need to know. So press pause if that helps, and you can get that information and make a donation to the church. Anyway, let's take that away. That's for you if you, as I said, if you're willing and able, if you appreciate what we do, if you'd like to support us. All right, here's our reading. Jonah chapter 4. The fourth and final chapter, and I love it. Jonah was extremely upset at the way things turned out. In fact, he was furious. He lost his temper. He prayed to God, "Lord, didn't I tell you, even before I left home, that this is exactly what would happen? That's why I ran off to Tarshish. I knew, Lord, that you are a loving and merciful God. I knew that you are patient and kind and ready to change your mind, and that you don't like punishing people. So now, God, if you won't kill them, kill me. I'm better off dead. Just kill me now, Lord. I'd rather be dead than alive if what I predicted isn't going to happen." God said, "Jonah, are you well within your rights to be quite so angry?" But Jonah just got up and left. He went out of the city to the east, and he sat down in a sulk. He managed to put together a makeshift shelter of branches and sat there to see what would happen to the city. That night, God arranged for a broad-leafed plant to spring up. It grew up over Jonah to cool him off. Jonah was pleased the next day when he saw the plant, and he enjoyed the shade. He was feeling a bit better. But then, that night, God sent a caterpillar. All through that night, it chewed through the stem of the plant, and it killed it. So when Jonah awoke in the morning, the plant had withered and died. Then, to add to his problems, God sent a blistering, burning, hot, dry wind from the east. So the sun beat down on Jonah's head, and the wind blew hot against him, and he felt awful. He actually said to God, "Lord, I'd be better off dead." Then God said to Jonah, "Are you angry about that plant? The one that sprang up overnight, lived for a day and died the next night?" Jonah said, "Damn right I'm angry about that plant. I'm angry enough to want to die." God said, "So you're sad and angry about a plant that died? No, you didn't do anything to make this plant come about. You didn't plant the seed, you didn't water it and tend it. It sprang up one night, you had it for a day, and it died the next night. You've shown more care and concern for that plant, but none for Nineveh. Shouldn't I, the Lord, have concern for that great city? There are more than 120,000 people living there. They don't know their left hand from their right hand. They don't know good from bad. Ignorant people. And that's not to mention all the animals living there as well. Should I not care for them? So what's going on in this reading? It's a very strange end to the book of Jonah. Jonah has basically gone to Nineveh. He's preached to them. He said, stop your wickedness or God will destroy you. And the city actually heard and heeded his message. I don't think he expected that. Anyway, they got the warning and they changed their ways and God is pleased. This, in fact, has worked out rather well from God's point of view. It's exactly what he wanted to happen. But Jonah is not pleased. The passage starts by saying in the Hebrew, this turn of events, which is to say the city repenting from its evil ways, this turn of events was evil to Jonah. That's really odd. I mean, I've translated it as Jonah was upset. You could say sad, angry, depressed. But anyway, the Hebrew is what the outcome of his preaching, the successful outcome of his preaching was evil to Jonah. Did Jonah not want these people to repent? Does he want them to be destroyed? Perhaps he would rather have just left them as they were. I don't know. And then Jonah says to God, Lord, I knew this is exactly what would happen. That's why I didn't want to take this assignment. I knew this is what would happen. You are a gracious and compassionate God. You are slow to anger and abundant in goodness. When Jonah says those words to God, you are gracious and compassionate, you are slow to anger and abundant in goodness, he is directly quoting from the book of Exodus. And this reminds me a little bit of Satan tempting Jesus. And in doing so, he actually quotes various parts of the Bible to Jesus. Just remember here, when somebody knows their Bible and can even cite passages from it, that doesn't necessarily make them right. Don't believe everybody who is quoting scripture. They are usually, in fact, the most deluded and dangerous people of all. Anyway, Jonah puts this protestation to God. I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. And he's sad and he's angry and he's vexed and he's perplexed and this hasn't gone the way he wanted it to go. I don't quite know which way he did expect and hope and want it to go, but anyway, he's not happy with the outcome he's got. So God asks Jonah a very simple question. Jonah, are you right to be angry about this? And instead of answering God, Jonah just gets up and walks away. He's good at that. He does a lot of running away. He did it at the very beginning, of course. He doesn't want to face issues or answer questions. Off he goes. So then the next place we find Jonah is out to the east of Nineveh, sitting up, probably up on a hill, looking over the city. He's watching, he's waiting, he wants to see what, if anything, is going to happen to this city of Nineveh. I don't know whether he's hoping that they're going to be punished, because perhaps they're recidivists. They're going to fall back into their bad old ways and they can't really keep up this change of heart, this new righteous, wholesome and healthy life that they've taken. I don't know. Maybe he thinks God's going to just let them get away with it. They did years of wickedness and evil. They've said sorry. They've changed their ways. And sure, they're going to stick to it. But what about the crimes committed in the past? Are they going to go unpunished? I don't know quite what Jonah is thinking and feeling, but I know that he is not a happy man. He is having a proper stroppy sulk. Anyway, Jonah is there, watching and waiting, looking over this city, waiting to see what, if anything, will happen. The next thing that happens is that Jonah decides he needs to make himself some kind of shelter. It's hot. He's in the Iraqi desert. So he makes himself something out of branches, but it seems to be a fairly poor affair at giving him any shade or shelter. So God, overnight, causes this great green leafy plant to spring up, and it's fantastic. Jonah loves sitting underneath this green, luxurious foliage. He spends a day like that, pretty happy. But the next night, This very night after this plant sprang up, God sends a caterpillar and this worm eats the plant withers, the plant dies, and the next day Jonah's situation is worse than the first, because not only is he under this hot desert sun, but God deliberately sends a scorching, blistering east wind that is burning hot, that adds to the intensity of the sun. And you'll notice that there's echoes here of chapter 1. In chapter 1, Jonah's running away from God. This time he's running west, and now he seems to have run east. But in chapter 1, Jonah's running away from God, and Jonah gets on the boat, and God sends a storm. And then Jonah goes off the boat, and God sends a whale to stop Jonah from drowning. Here, God doesn't send a storm and a whale. He sends a caterpillar or a worm, some kind of insect, and a hot east wind. But the theme is similar. God uses animals and the weather to bring about his purposes, to get his will and his word across to Jonah. And the sun beats down on Jonah, and Jonah says the thing that he always says, "I wish I was dead. I'd be better off dead." That's the third time he said that. Really spectacular self-pity. It's just terrible. He should be ashamed of himself. Anyway, so God says to Jonah, "Jonah, are you sad and angry about that plant that sprang up one night, lived for a day and died the next night?" And Jonah says, damn right, God, I'm sad and angry. I'm angry enough, you've guessed it, I'm angry enough to die." That's the fourth time. This man is a real drama queen. But now the story ends with a speech from God, and that speech from God itself ends with a question, and that question is left hanging. God has the last word, and I wonder if that's because Jonah realizes that God's logic is impeccable. I wonder if it's because this final speech that ends in a final question that's left hanging and unanswered, I wonder if it's left that way because Jonah comes to his senses, sees the light, and is just too damn embarrassed and ashamed to reply. Anyway, what does God say? What does God say? God says, "Jonah, you're sad about that plant. A plant, incidentally, that you had no hand in bringing about. You didn't sow the seed. You didn't tend it. You didn't water it. It sprang up overnight. It lived for a day, and it died that night. You are sad about that plant. How much more sad, how much more concerned should I be about the potential destruction of Nineveh? A huge city of 120,000 people, as well as many animals." Answer comes there, none. Jonah is sad and angry about this death of this plant that was after all a gift from God, and the only reason he's sad and angry about it is because it was giving him shade, and now the shade has gone. He doesn't actually care about the plant. Maybe you've got a garden, maybe you've got pets, and these are animals and plants that you have tended and loved and nurtured, and if they get sick and if they die, you genuinely feel sad. Jonah's done nothing for this plant, but it was doing something for him, and now it's gone. He's sad and angry. But he didn't seem concerned at the potential destruction of this city. A city described as being 120,000 ignorant human beings. The actual Hebrew phrase is, they don't know their left hand from their right. They are living in darkness. They are sinful and stupid. As well, says God, as well as these people who I do love and care about, there are also many animals. Should I, says God, should I not be concerned about that city? Should you, is the implicit question, should you, Jonah, also not have been concerned about this city? So there's the story of Jonah. Jonah chapter 4. It ends with this speech from God, with God using a plant and a caterpillar to teach Jonah a lesson about what's really important, with a final question that God presents to Jonah and that goes unanswered, that Jonah cannot respond to or reply to, and a reminder to us what really matters, what matters to God, what should matter to us, what do we care about, when do we get sulky, when do we get sad, when do we get angry, and why? Anyway, lots to think about. God bless you, take care, and we'll see you next week.